Hi, everyone, and welcome to Conservation Conversations with Chelsea. My name is Chelsea Partridge, and I'm the supervisor for Brevard Soil and Water Conservation District Group 3. In this series, we'll be talking to people that are involved in conservation, find out more about what they do, and how we can get involved in conservation in the community and at home. Today, I'd like to welcome Abbey Gering, a graduate student at the Florida Institute of Technology. Abbey is studying chemical oceanography and is doing some pretty interesting research on a pretty innovative way to decrease nutrient concentrations in the Indian River Lagoon. Welcome, Abbey.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to talk to you about this project today.
Yeah, we're so excited to have you, and I can't wait for you to share more because I think a lot of people are going to find this really interesting and are going to want to help out.
Oh, thank you. I really hope so.
Well, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got interested in oceanography.
And so I'm originally from Illinois, and so there's no ocean there, just a lot of corn. I grew up in a smallish town, and despite growing up not surrounded by the ocean, I wanted to be in the environment in any way that I could, whether it be climbing trees, frog catching, all the fun stuff. And I just really cared about the environment a lot. And so after the first time I saw the ocean when I was like 3 or 4, I was like, I'm going to be a marine biologist. It was the only thing that I'd ever heard, as a child. Every child wants to be a marine biologist at one point, I feel like. And so I had clung to that idea for quite a while. But as I grew up, and especially when I got into high school, I started to actually notice the impacts that humans were having on the environment. And it just didn't sit well with me. I had grown up just so immersed in something so healthy and beautiful and giving, and now I'm seeing all the detrimental impacts that we were having, and I wanted to aim my career and my life towards trying to help it and trying to restore whatever possibly I can help with. And so that led me to doing more research about potential careers in environmental conservation or marine biology, anything related to marine science I was really set on. And so that's how I stumbled upon oceanography at Florida Tech. And when I read that you can study the physical, biological, geological, and chemical aspects of the ocean, so everything that you could possibly know about the ocean, I was like, I want to study that. That is what I'm looking for. And so I packed up my life and I moved down here to Florida. And I'm so glad that I made this decision. And so I was a little lost at first when I got here. It was more of a, well, I got here. And so now what? Now, do I want to do chemical or biological, physical, geological? I didn't know. And so I just started volunteering with whoever needed help, whether it was seining, seagrass surveys. I did some outreach and education. Whatever it was, I was there wanting to help kind of dip my toe in the water in a little bit of everything. And then it wasn't until my junior year when I had to take a marine environmental chemistry course that I had finally found what I was looking for. And within this class, within the first 2 weeks, studying the material, I knew like this is what I came here for. This is what I'm gonna continue with. And so it really helped. The professor that teaches that class, his name is Dr. Austin Fox, and he's now my graduate advisor. But to see someone so intelligent and so just genuinely caring about the environment. So not only was he doing research, but he was doing research with care and with the wanting to help restore the lagoon. And I thought that was really special. And so that is the kind of mentor that I wanted. And so my little nervous self finally worked up the nerve and asked if I could help volunteer in the lab for a little bit, whether it be cleaning or just standing around watching them do their cool stuff. I just wanted to be a part of it. And so, of course, they're always willing to help students here. And so he made me feel right at home, started teaching me what he could. And 3 years later, I'm still working in the lab. And so we work in the marine biogeochemistry lab on campus, and we study a lot about water quality. My advisor specifically has a background with trace metals and nutrient cycling. And so we do a lot of work with water quality, both in the water column and in the sediments.
That's awesome. So tell us a little bit more about the project that you're working on for the lagoon.
So Actually, while we were working on a funded project by the NEP to see if adding air or adding directly pumping dissolved oxygen into the water column would help improve water quality. And so this is called an aeration project. And so from this project, we did see successful results. It did indicate that doing this did improve water quality. However, we were later approached to asked if we could improve the efficiency, if we could make it even better and improve the water quality even more. And so we said challenge accepted, and we kind of changed positions from studying water quality strictly to now moving into this new realm of water treatment. And so this was new territory for both me and my advisor, but we were just so excited to be a part of something like this. And it took off in ways that I don't think we even imagined possible in the beginning. And so essentially what we're doing is that a lot of people know that the Indian River Lagoon, but also coastal ecosystems, a lot of these coastal systems have problems with eutrophication. And this is just a fancy way of saying there's too many nutrients. And so plants and animals, we all need nutrients like nitrogen and phosphorus, but like everything else in excess, it's bad. Excess nutrients are bad. That's what you can take away from this. And so we are seeing these problems specifically right in our backyard, right in the lagoon. And so when you have a lot of rainfall, when you have a lot of anthropogenic impacts and inputs of nutrients, you start to see algae blooms. And so we've seen a lot of these blooms. I think 2016 was the major one, and that was the year that I just gotten here, and there was a lot of fish kills. And so I'm coming here and seeing that right away. It was just mind blowing to see that this is the state that we've come to. And so it even made the perspective of working in this lab and doing this research with my advisor even more appealing, because we both just wanted to help this so badly. And so we were approached and asked if we could improve the efficiency of water treatment. And so there are existing systems like wastewater treatment facilities, marine like aquariums, recirculating aquaculture system. These are all existing systems that utilize natural biological processes known as denitrification, nitrification, and anammox to help lower nutrient concentrations within these systems. And so they do this. There's these special bacteria. And so with nitrification, it's typically a process that requires oxygen, but you have specific nitrifying bacteria. And they're able to naturally convert ammonium, which is a specific type of nitrogen, into nitrite and then into nitrate. And so this is where you have a different group of heterotrophic denitrifying bacteria. And from here, they're able to naturally convert this nitrate and reduce it to nitrite and subsequently to N2 gas, which then diffuses through the water column into our atmosphere. And our atmosphere is 78% nitrogen. And so these bacteria are able to do this all on their own. This is their niche. This is their job in the environment. They are able to naturally convert these different forms of nitrogen that may not be good in high concentrations. They're able to convert that to N2 gas naturally. And so these systems do exist. This is not a concept that we have thought about on our own. However, from our search in the literature so far, there has yet to be a treatment system applied to natural waterways. And so we have yet to find some system that can treat natural water like lagoon water. So we have brackish water, you have that mixture of fresh water and salt water. And so this started the project. And so I had to test a lot of different media because these existing systems, they use different media types, like a substrate pretty much, to grow these bacteria on. And so the bacteria can form their biofilm on the substrate, and then from there, they're good. As long as they have the right conditions and the right environmental conditions, they can carry out the processes really efficiently. And so this is kind of where we started, was just testing. I think I tested 7 to 8 different media, and some of them did perform better than the others, but one of them that we found performed really well was bioballs. And these are commonly used in home aquaria, large aquaria. And they're really just these little plastic balls, and they're super porous and they have high surface area. And so there's a lot of little hidden grooves in there that the bacteria can grow and form their biofilm. And so it's cool to think about these things in the lab, but it's really important in science while you're going through the lab processes to ask yourself if it's possible for you to scale it up to a larger scale. And so obviously, if we were to apply this at a larger scale, we would have to use a lot of bioballs. And so as environmentally conscious people, we didn't really want to be the reason that we were increasing plastic production. And so that's when we started looking at possible alternatives. And so our whole goal is to take advantage of these natural biological processes. These bacteria do naturally exist in the lagoon. A lot of these processes do take place in the sediments, but the state of the lagoon, it's so degraded that it might not be able to support high populations of these specific bacteria. And so one major thing that we are also doing, not only are we providing them a home with our medias, we're also providing them with the right environmental conditions. And so plenty of oxygen, an energy source, keeping the bacteria as happy as we can so they can carry out these processes.
I think this is so fascinating, and I want to know, you mentioned you didn't want to be the reason for more plastic production, and so what you're using are plastic caps as your medium. So tell me a little more about how you figured out to use plastic caps, and kind of what inspired you to use something so seemingly simple and common to be a part of this natural process in the lagoon.
Great question. So we had saw these really promising results with the bio balls, and we have bio balls in the lab. We look at them, we know what type of plastic, they're high density polyethylene. And so we had walked by a recycling bin one day that was just full of bottles. And so our original thought was, why don't we use recycled bottles and try to see if we can grow the bacteria on them? But after, just touching them, looking at the water bottles, we decided, well, they're really flimsy. I feel like these can break down easily into microplastics. And then we were looking at the cap, and we both kind of just looked at each other and were like, huh, why don't we give these caps a try? They're durable, and a lot of the bottle caps are high density polyethylene and polypropylene, and so it isn't made out of the same material. And so that's how we started testing caps, and we were testing them and comparing them to the results that we were seeing with bio balls. And now a really important aspect of this is that it does take time for the bacteria to grow. And so that's been one of the really cool things about this process, is actually seeing it become more efficient over time. And that's how we could tell that we were establishing these bacterial communities. And so that is how we stumbled on the bottle cap. And a lot of places actually don't recycle bottle caps. I don't know if that's changed in recent years, but from our knowledge, there are some recycling facilities that don't recycle bottle caps. And so that was another motivation for using them specifically. We wanted to repurpose them and give them a second life.
I really just love the fact that you were just walking and you saw these plastic bottles, and you saw the caps, and it just dawned on you. I think that's such a as somebody who's an engineer, I think that's wonderful. And I think that kind of help shows that in science and engineering, sometimes the most simple things can be your solution. It doesn't have to be something complicated or super fancy to still be effective. So I love that. And I love that you're giving these plastics kind of a new life instead of them just going to the landfill. I think that's great.
Thank you. Yeah, we were really excited about it. There's so many other reasons we chose bottle caps as well, is because once you start looking at larger applications, it's also money is a thing. And so these treatment systems are expensive. But if you have a treatment system where you're using bottle caps, these bottle caps are essentially available and found everywhere. You can go to the poorest regions on the planet, and they have a bottle cap problem. They have recycling problems. So you are now the system, we're thinking of applications beyond just the lagoon. And so I think that's another really important thing to keep in mind, is that this could be a more cost-friendly solution to areas that are remote and underserved, and it can help. And those are usually the areas that have really polluted waterways too. And so we're really excited to see this move forward and to see what it grows into.
Yeah, and I'd like to touch on that a little bit later about the broader implications. But before we get to that, what is the state of the project right now, and what do you expect the results to be like? Tell us where you're at, where you're going, and what you expect your near-term sort of results to be?
So this had originally started as lab experiments. And so at first I started testing the media. We call them sequencing batch reactors. And so I just had a bunch of treatment cells. You fill them with water, you let them sit with the bacteria that have grown on these bottle caps, and then you pump the water out. And so you're comparing what is going in versus what you pumped out. And so that's how it started. And then when we were helping work with this other company that was trying to meet specific nutrient concentrations, we started looking at applying it at a larger scale. And so we do have a fully operating 5,000 gallon treatment system right now up in Cocoa Beach. And so this system has been up and running for months now. And so that was our next step. That was our bigger step. And so that is kind of around the area when we first had, as soon as kind of some people at Florida Tech found out what we were doing, the word started to get out more, and then it took off faster than we could have ever imagined. And so we did an interview with Florida Today, and Jim over there was great at telling our story, and Florida Tech released an article. And so we, after realizing, this is going to be full scale, we realized that we need a lot of caps. And so this was a great opportunity to start to get the community involved. And so that is what we use these articles for. And so when they got out, we asked the community to step up and help us collect bottle caps. And so after that, it really took off. And it's been an amazing outreach opportunity. It's been a great way to tell people what's happening in the lagoon, raise awareness on plastics in the environment. And so looking forward, we're waiting to see if this will be applied on an even larger scale, bigger than that 5,000 gallon treatment system. And so I keep saying treatment system, and I think it's really important to emphasize kind of the whole picture of what's going on here. And so we are putting the bottle caps in mesh bags, but these mesh bags are going with a built treatment system. And so that is for double layers of protection, because we are absolutely aware of the plastic problem in the environment. I mean, a part of why we're using caps is because we didn't want to produce more plastic. And so we're repurposing something that already exists in such high abundances. And so we have these caps doubly contained. And so that makes sure that they're not getting out in the environment. And then another thing is microplastics. Microplastics are a huge problem in the environment, and that is something that we are also extremely aware about. And so the main factors that actually lead to secondary microplastics is ultraviolet radiation, and so your sunlight, and physical forces like waves and wind. And so these forces, when plastic is released into the environment, they can break them down into smaller pieces called microplastics. And these pieces are usually smaller than 5 millimeters in size. And so a lot of the time you can see some of them with the naked eye, but you do have to do a lot of microscope work. And so we are aware that these are the two main variables that can lead to secondary microplastics. And so we decided to completely take out those variables. And so in our system, the caps are completely submerged under the surface of the water, and they're also shaded. And so they have no exposure to sunlight at all. And because they are doubly contained within the system, it's a very low energy system. So there are no waves, there is no wind to break down these plastics. And so to kind of make sure that we aren't contributing to microplastics, I took initiative and started following NOAA's standard procedures for microplastic counts. And so every week I take samples and I look at what's coming in versus what's going out. I'm looking at that actually right now. This is something we're going to look into in the future. We're actually seeing lower concentrations of microplastics leaving the system than coming in. And so somewhere along the line, we're actually reducing the amount of microplastics that come out of the system. And so that is something that we're really interested in with collaboration in the future, wherever this leads. It's not a fully funded project. And so there's so many different paths that this can go on, but that's some recent discovery that we're really excited about. And so right now there's no significant difference between what is coming in the system versus what is leaving. And so we're really confident that we're not releasing microplastics. And these caps have been in the system for over 6 months now. And there's still no signs of breakdown or anything. And so that's one really important thing that we like to emphasize, because a lot of people will see mesh bags and bottle caps, and we're not just throwing them into the lagoon. I am in no way encouraging anybody to go throw plastic in the lagoon. because as I mentioned earlier, another really important part about this project is that we're controlling the environmental conditions. So because they naturally do live in the lagoon, and because the lagoon is degraded, we have to make the right environmental conditions for them to thrive. And so that's another really important piece to this puzzle.
So tell us, how would you describe the state of the lagoon right now?
I think it's a very obvious answer right now that the lagoon it's not at its best state for sure. And we are seeing that, unfortunately. We're seeing a lot of this. And so the best analogy that I've heard so far is that the trash can is full. And so right now, the lagoon cannot keep up with the impacts that we as humans are having on them. But with that being said, throughout the recent years that the changes that Brevard has made, I think that the support from the community, it has led to a lot of projects. There's a lot of efforts now in place to help restore the lagoon. But I think it's really important for people to understand that these projects take time. You are not going to see the results right away. You're not going to see the positive impacts right away. But I assure you that this is a collaborative effort. This is a multifaceted approach. We need a collaboration of ideas and concepts and projects to help restore it back to its original state. I think we are well on our way to that, and I am optimistic for the future and the health of the lagoon. I think with community support, with researchers, there's just so many people that want to see it back into that state, its flourished state of life, its healthy, its peak, it's a capability to support organisms, and I'm optimistic for its future because we have such a supportive community, because we have such people trying to bring together their ideas. And so with that being said, it is a collaborative effort. And so we're always looking for people's insights, suggestions, comments, and everything.
So you talked about a little bit about being excited about seeing this go to a larger scale. So what do you think the broader implications of your research is? Do you think that you could apply this on a large scale and do a large quantity of water treatment, or what do you envision that the future growth of this to be?
That is exactly. So we do have a 5,000 gallon treatment system. And so in our lab results, pretty much one form of nitrogen that actually gets released from muck deposits. And so certain environmental conditions can actually cause the muck in the lagoon to re-release all of the nutrients that they have. And so a primary speciation of nitrogen that gets released is ammonium. And so that's been something that we've been keeping a close eye on in the lab. And we were just mind blown when in 8 hours there's no more nitrogen, or there's no more ammonium, where the system is completely removing it. Not completely, it's mostly greater than 98% is being removed in as little as 8 hours. And so we scaled that up to 5,000 gallons, and we're still seeing really similar results. And so we're seeing greater, and in total, we're seeing greater than 70% of total dissolved nitrogen concentrations leaving. And so we are decreasing more than 70% of total dissolved nitrogen just by utilizing these already existing bacteria and just giving them a home, which is the bottle caps, and giving them the right environmental conditions. And so it is definitely scalable. And we've proved that with the 5,000 gallons. So our next step, we are in the process of scaling it up even larger. And so to answer that question, yes, it will be applied at a larger scale. And so obviously I won't know the results of that until it's up and running and going. But so far we're feeling very confident, and I'm looking forward to seeing it grow.
Yeah, this is just, I love this. This is really speaking so much to my nerdy heart right now.
Oh, I'm so glad. Mine too.
I think this is just so cool, and for you to be seeing the level of results that you're seeing, that's awesome. I think this is so great, and I love the way you put it. You say this is a naturally occurring process. We're just giving these bacteria a home in the right condition so they can thrive. And what a simple and eloquent way to put it. I think that's great. I love it.
Yeah, I think the simplest way to put it is that we're pretty much creating a probiotic for the lagoon. So it is sick, and so we are trying to create this probiotic for it, and so we're promoting good bacteria.
I love it. That's great. So, what can people do at home to help? You've already said you don't want people going out just throwing their plastic in the lagoon. Don't do that. That's not what you're doing. Don't go out and buy more plastic either. That's not the point. You want to repurpose
Exactly.
what is already out there. So, how can people help you out with this?
I think this is a really good opportunity for people. I know it's unrealistic to assume that you will never use anything that has a plastic bottle cap. But the really cool thing about this is that once you start collecting your bottle caps, you can look at these as tokens. You're creating these tokens of your usage, your own, you're keeping track of your own personal plastic consumption. And so my hope is that people are shocked by what they first see that they're producing. I hope it raises self-awareness about what you are as an individual creating and what you're consuming. And so I'm all about reusable water bottles and stuff. And so luckily I don't have a pile. I haven't really been contributing much, but I think it's a really great opportunity to start somewhere. And so if you're shocked by how big your pile is at first, now you're aware. You can make changes to your daily life. You can smaller and smaller. Obviously, we need a lot of caps, but there's also a lot of people. And so I think we can reach our goal while encouraging people to constantly make improvements to your life. The smallest changes. I'm a huge believer that any individual is capable of making a change, and that change starts with you, and it starts with your community, and it starts with these conversations. And so you might be embarrassed by first how much you're using, but you make mistakes, you learn. And so I'm hoping that people will see this. It'll raise awareness, and then they can actually start to make more eco-friendly changes to their lifestyle. And some people aren't even aware of that plastics are in the environment. We have people that have never really done beach cleanups at all, and all of a sudden they're coming up to it, and we were doing a beach cleanup now, and look at all these bottle caps that we found. And so I think that's a great opportunity for this. And so people can help by spreading the word. That's huge help for us, just getting this out there, helping us collect caps, but it also have conversations with your family, with your community about marine debris in the environment, and think of really cool alternatives. Like I saw your post about collecting the bottle caps, and I love that you're using jars and boxes. And so those are things that I can encourage, repurposing the plastic that you already have. And so another thing that I've seen is, given the times that we're in, Clorox wipes. Those are great to collect your bottle caps. That's a great way to reuse anything like that. And so obviously you want to stick to the R's: reduce, reuse, or we like to call it, we're repurposing this caps. And so that's that, we're not recycling them, we're repurposing them. But reduce, reuse, and recycle. Those are extremely important, but I think the main one that people should start to emphasize is reduce that consumption, reduce your single plastic use. And there's so many things nowadays that you can do. There's so many alternatives. It's really crazy how many different things, like they no longer have shampoo and conditioner in bottles. You can actually buy them in bars. There's a group up in Bethune Beach, Beach Relief. It's a great organization that I got to meet because of this project and talk with, and they are absolutely great at communicating with their community alternative uses, and it's so heartwarming to see people like this. And so I think that I'm hoping people get from this is that change can start with you, and that I will never think that any impact is too small. I think you have to start somewhere, and I hope people start to see that. And I do see it. There's so many people that have said, I've just never known how to help, and I feel like I can help you now. And so I'm so glad that people are collecting caps, but I also hope that people start to make changes. And again, use these as tokens, as a reminder to yourself of what you can do. And then another thing is nutrient application. So picking up your dog waste and disposing of it. Don't use fertilizers if you can refrain from it, or if you do, follow the instructions and apply the recommended amount or even go less. We did have, my advisor did a little experiment with some of his friends one time, and looking at, it was for a high school or a middle school science project, looking at fertilizers, and they actually found that a majority of it doesn't get taken up in the plants. A lot of it will just go straight into the water, into the ground. And so that's a big problem with fertilizers. And so Brevard has done great. You know, we have the fertilizer ban in the rainy months, and that's great. But if you can try to avoid it in whatever way you can, that would make a difference. And so, and again, having these conversations with people and having, you know, bringing awareness to your friends, your family and such, that some people just don't know. But you'll start to, once you start to pay attention, you're going to start to see trash in the environment. You're going to see the impacts that we have more. And I hope this just encourages people that starting with you, it won't be too small. Like your impact, think of it, one person thinks one way, and then all of a sudden you have 7 billion people thinking the same way. That's still 7 billion individuals. And I think that that's really powerful, that we have the ability to change what we have done. And so I really hope that people get that out of this project. And it's been so fun. I think I almost have every school in Brevard, every elementary school, middle school, high school. I love giving talks and presentations to them about this project. It's so fun to get the students involved. It's fun to geek out with them and to encourage them and to give them these cheesy speeches, is that you can really be the change that you want to see in the world. And I think it's really important to get that message across, because a lot of the time when you see the state that the environment is in, it's easy to get overwhelmed. And it's easy to feel hopeless and like that we are beyond return. And so I think it's easy to get discouraged, but I just hope that I will never stop emphasizing to people that you are capable of making a change. Whether it is small or big, it is still a change. And adding those changes up will make a difference. And so I really hope that's something that people can get out of this.
And I want to reemphasize something you said. Change can start with you. And for those that are interested in making that change and helping Abbey out, there are drop-off sites for plastic caps. You can also mail them to her. And what I'll do is I'll put the info for all of that when I publish this video, so you all can have that. But there's also drop-off sites where you could just take your caps. So we just set one up at the Brevard Extension office in Cocoa, but Abbey already has them set up in at the Brevard Zoo in Vieira, the Tiny Turtle in Cocoa Beach, and Sun Shop Cafe in Melbourne. And I'm really hoping to try to find a spot in Titusville. So if any listeners have a place in mind, or you think someone, a business or something, might not have a problem putting a box there, I think that'd be great, because I've even got these at my workplace, and I'm collecting them from my friends. And I think this is just a great, simple, easy way to have a powerful impact on helping our local community and to help conserve our lagoon.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate you going out of your way and helping us with more donation sites. It's been a great way for us to also kind of help. We started this back in August, November, and so a lot of local businesses were also struggling. And so this has been a great opportunity to get more people going into these local businesses. I know I can't resist the smell of coffee when I go into the Sun Shop. So I hope when people go, they're also supporting local businesses. And so I think there's just so many benefits from this that we're seeing. And I mentioned earlier, for a larger scale, I think that because bottle caps, you will start to notice that bottle caps really are everywhere. You walk across the parking lot and you can probably pick up 5 on the ground. You walk on the beach. I had a group that had collected a bag greater than this much in just a month of solely bottle caps off of their little stretch of beach, which is heartbreaking, but it's also nice to know that there's people out there now that you're aware. You will start to see it. So mark my words, you're going to start to see these little plastic bottles everywhere and these caps everywhere. And so we're hoping in the future, with larger implications, that we can actually help represent these underserved, remote communities that might not be able to afford a really fancy, expensive treatment system. And so because we're using something that's essentially available everywhere globally, our hopes are for the future is that that's where it goes, is that we're able to help anyone. We're able to help these underserved communities that don't have the best water quality. And these are all problems globally. This isn't just a lagoon problem. Eutrophication is a problem in a lot of our coastal systems. And so the more you can get people aware, the more you can teach people about nutrients and the small things like picking up your dog waste that can make a difference in the long run, reducing your fertilizer use or just not using fertilizers at all. There's so many things that you can do with this project, and I'm really excited to see where it takes off.
I'm excited too. I still look forward to seeing your project's progress and seeing where you take this. And I just want to thank you so much for sharing this with us today and
Yeah, of
for
course.
doing what you're doing. I think that's this is really great research. I absolutely love it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Abby, for joining me today. I really appreciate you taking the time to share with us your research and everything you're doing. I'm so excited about this project. I can't wait to get some of these collection sites, filling up with bottle caps for you, and to see where your research goes. I love this so much. Thank you
Thank you.
again.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Yeah, my advisor, Dr. Fox, and I were super excited to see where this takes off, and I'm feeling really optimistic about it. And I think, you know, as a child that wanted to do nothing but make a positive change, it is feeling satisfying to be. I feel like we're on our way there, and that's really special to me. And so this project is my baby.
I love it. And, you know, I hope you take a moment to feel proud of what you are doing, because you grew up wanting to do this and you are already seeing the changes of in your 5,000 gallon system. You're making a difference. You're doing the good work. And I hope you take a moment to reflect on that and just think about it, because you're doing good.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. And right back at you too, though, because these conversations, these conservation conversations are so important. And so I think it's so important to get the community involved and to bridge whatever gap that we can between scientists and the community. And because this, again, it's a collaborative effort. It's not just one or the other. We all got to band together and help save our lagoon.
I couldn't agree more. Thank you so much, Abby, for joining us. And for all of you that have tuned in, thank you. Gosh, I don't know how we're going to top this, because I thought this was a great conversation. But if there are more topics you'd like to hear about or people you'd like to hear from, just let me know in the comments. Once again, I'm Chelsea Partridge, Supervisor for Brevard Soil and Water Conservation District Group 3. This is Abby from Florida Tech. Thank you so much, Abby. And thank you for joining us for Conservation Conversations with Chelsea.